Hello and welcome to Cece's Brilliant Plan. My name is Christy and I'm really excited today to share with you kind of a quick overview of my 2025 system, planner and journal system ecosystem, what changed and what I'm taking with me into 2026. If you're into planners and journals and understanding people's systems, please stick around and consider subscribing. So let's get into it, okay? So for 2025, I essentially had a system that included two main planner sizes and covers, and actually a few, I would say three journal sizes and covers. And so first I'm going to start off with my planners. These are kind of like daily planners and regular planning systems. I have more extensive videos from throughout 2025 that I'll link below so you can take a look at them. But for the most part, I stayed in this beautiful special Nomad, which is like the TN standard size cover from Vanderspeck in Janet Leather Black, which is now about a year and a half old. I've had this and it's beautiful. I think all but August. In August, I actually switched out into this cover, but throughout the rest of the year, I really stayed in this cover. I am in love with it. It just feels like home. And so I'm still using it even this year. But to give you kind of another quick review, I had this one section here in which I had kind of a meal planning notebook, and I also had a commonplace notebook, and I had this beautiful sterling ink common planner in the full year size. This is the N1, horizontal. And I'm going to just pull this out so that's a little easier to navigate. And so I had the plastic cover. I created a vision board for myself with the different kind of areas of my life and images that I wanted to kind of always have on reference to inspire me. A lot of people use word of the year. Last year, my whole thing was really more of a song and a phrase, "The mountain is you," that really stuck with me. And I also included my intentions, a couple of different stickies throughout the year. I didn't really use the quarterly pages too much or the annual year pages, but I did use my monthly layouts for the most part and color coded my system according to life area. I also used my weeklies with original stamps that I designed. And this is probably my favorite investment that I made back in 2024 for my 2025 system, and one that I still am using this coming year. I created these rubber stamps, purchased them through a vendor, designed them myself, and used them throughout the year to have a daily plan, a weekly plan, task lists, meals, and then this one is kind of just one that you buy off of, I don't know, I think Amazon or something. But here's kind of the weekly plan. I have a focus, goals, trackers, habit trackers. I also have a task list where I separate by different categories. Goals, wellness, home are generally the categories that I always use year to year. I'm sorry, week to week, and even in my dailies. So this is a really, I think, helpful system that worked for me. Having, like, I was so consistent throughout the year with this. It just really gave me kind of a helpful routine that made planning and weekly resets and check-ins on a day-to-day basis so much more manageable and just easier. I used to design my own inserts and print and cut them myself, which I loved. I do love designing my own because you can change them however you want. But after many iterations over the last several years in ring planners, the idea of having one bound book designed in the way that I like it was very appealing, and I found that stamps were a great way to do that. So this is an example of my weekly layout using the horizontal layout, using different, I normally have this side of the horizontal section with appointments, this side with any of the to-dos that I get done, and then notes as, things come up. Again, goals, top goals, habits, and then areas, other to-dos in different life areas. I only use this and one planner for personal goals. I do not put my work goals or to-dos here. It's one thing I'll mention. And then as an example, here's what the dailies looked like. Again, I use that same task list here. And then I had the daily stamp with a schedule, a space for the date that I would use this little rubber stamp to fill. And I would, go forward and just use the same layout every day. And it worked. I used it the entire year. It really helped just make planning and check-ins and everything very consistent. And it satisfied that craving I had to have a full, compact year's worth of personal plans in one bound book that I can archive so beautifully. So that's my daily and weekly personal planner. And this is a Portland leather pouch where I stored all of my stamps. And I used one of these premium stamp pads. I think this is like a gray color that has still lasted well into the new year. So for 2026, I'm using the same size, same type of planner, an N1 common planner. I still have to fill out quite a bit for January on the monthly, but I've already stamped the weekly pages for January and the daily pages for January. One thing that I change is that I'm adding the meals to the bottom here, and I'll explain why in a bit. And so out with the old and in with the new. But so long 2025, welcome 2026. What I've done a little differently is I've moved the commonplace book here. This used to be a spot for my meal planning book and exercise tracking book. And right now I also have my personal finance notebook, which is just kind of a place that I've been using the last year to take notes on. Just, personal finances, net worth, credit score, taxes, all of the good stuff. And so this is my current setup for my 2026 daily and weekly and monthly personal planner. I will be honest, for the most part, I don't reference the monthly all that often. And I always check in, as much as the weekly is something I do regularly use to kind of do a weekly reset each week. It's mostly for to-dos and habits. My calendar for both monthly and weekly, I really rely on digital calendars for appointments and meetings. But this system has been really great in terms of keeping track of my to-dos and really thinking very thoughtfully about different areas of my personal life and moving along goals that I've set for myself. So that's my system, my personal planning system in my Vanderspec Janet Leather Black Special Nomad with Sterling Ink 2026 Common Planner in N1 size. Full year. It fits beautifully. And oh my gosh, this still smells so yummy. I added my little charm with a C. So that is my first planner. This is my work planner. This is a Moterm A5 zip cover in yeah, this I think is called Midnight, if I'm correct. It's essentially like their color, their name for the color black. And it's really beautiful. I bought this last January. This was the only planner cover that I purchased in all of 2025, which is quite astounding. And I used to have this is I have a half, sorry, no, I have a full a 1-inch disc system in here, but I used to have like a quarter, 3/4 inch or a 1/2 inch disc. But I expanded it kind of throughout the last few months as my fiscal year, because I work on a fiscal year, as that really progressed. So this is the calendar for my work. I used to have monthlies in here, monthly actual layouts, but again, I really rely on digital monthly and weekly calendars. And you'll see that this system is really built around goals, tracking metrics on a day-to-day basis. And so currently I have all of my dailies and sort of monthly goal sheets from July of 2025 through January. And here's a glimpse at January. I just started work this week, so I'm getting back into it. But I have a focus, top 3, and kind of a summary of weekly goals that I transfer here. Different goals and projects. I need to cover this for confidentiality, but goals and projects, sort of outreach that I have to do, to-dos, unplanned requests that I end up working on, things that I'll need to follow up on, kind of moving into the next month. I have a space here for wins and accomplishments and challenges and lessons learned, feedback, etc., for the month. I also have a place where I do some monthly habit tracking, weekly habit tracking, daily tracking, and then a monthly and week-to-week overview of metrics that I use for work. I am in fundraising, and so these are related to that. Then I also have week-to-week reflections here as I work and fill out my metrics on a week-to-week basis. I also reflect on what worked and what didn't. Then I have a monthly overview of the calendar where I'll note kind of either the most important meeting or project or activity for that week. And again, this is my work only planner, so this is strictly around work. And I've highlighted here the weekends so that I know why I don't have anything in those spaces. This is what the daily looks like. Down one page, I have a spot for the date, top 3 to-dos for that day, tasks, notes about donor outreach, a daily chronicle of my metrics, an hour-to-hour summary of the day, and then a little spot for notes. If at any time I feel like I need more notes pages, I often go back here. I'll use either some Post-its or a notes page, blank notes page that I can insert in between the dailies. And that system has really worked for me. I also use weekly compass cards. So these are things kind of that I adopted from the Franklin Covey system, the Franklin Planner system. And I'll have, a spot for focus, top 3, and then some of the weekly priorities by kind of some of the areas that I work with, the centers that I work with. And then on the back here, donor outreach, task lists, and routines that I'd like to track on a week-to-week basis. And I'll put that in between the dailies. And so that's my work planner. And this has really been my system for the last year and almost 2 years now. And it's really working. So I'm going to keep that going. I also had, throughout the year, I'm always using different size notebooks to just kind of jot down and be like a brain dump anything notebook. Sometimes they're bound, little moleskins. Lately, I've just been trying to use pages and books that I had previously not used. So at one point I used this A6 cover. Currently I am in this Gillio medium Amica cover in rust, which is a few years old. And then the pages are from a cut down B6 size Sterling ink journal that I never used a couple years ago. And I basically cut them down to be blank pages for this brain dump anything notebook that I use. So for the next area, I'm going to show my main journals that I used in 2025. Again, you can see a fuller description and review in my past videos that I'll link below, but I use an A5 Common Planner, and this is in a purple Apoca A5 zip Appunto cover from Giulio Ferenzi, which I've had for a few years now. And I use this A5 journal in a few ways. I use it as a daily journal where I track 3 things I'm grateful for. I usually do a little affirmation from one of the affirmation apps that I have, daily affirmation. I'll do 3 things that I'm grateful for, a few things about the day, kind of summary, high level summary of the day, the high point, the low point, any goals that I completed. And I really stuck to that this year. Then I would go and fill out the weekly pages afterward, summarizing kind of the high or just bigger events of the day or notes about the day, and then reflect at the end of the week about different milestones, favorite memories, goals that are growing well, and challenges or lessons learned. And this is part of my daily and kind of weekly journaling and resets that I did. I was pretty consistent. I think all but a couple of days in November, I didn't do the dailies. But I would say for the first half of the year, I was pretty on top of doing weekly resets and reflections. But the second half of the year, I didn't do them as consistently. And I really want to recommit to that weekly reset time because I think that whole process really helped me think through goals in the first half of the year. That it set me up for great progress in the second half of the year, but without that consistent weekly reflection, the goal setting for this coming year feels like I'm kind of starting from scratch in a way, starting over. So rather than continuing. So this is part of my goal planning and reflection, part of my weekly planning and reflection. And definitely it's how I've tried to continue my habit of gratitude journaling, which I've done in different size planners for like the last 6 years. So I'm keeping this same planner size and system and the way that I'm using it for 2026. Now, something that was new this past year that I started to do that I was very consistent with and I'm really proud of is using this N1 compact planner, common planner, as a weekly health journal and kind of log. And I used the horizontal weekly. As you can see, this past week, I've been very sick. I had a cold. It's fine. I'm recovering. You could probably hear it. But I would log workouts and my cycle and different symptoms here. And then here I would track habits that I'm trying to just really cultivate, as well as my mood, and then different metrics from my health app. So steps, exercise minutes, sleep, and then kind of calories that you burn in. And I use this very consistently throughout the year. One thing that I didn't do was really use the back notes pages at all for anything. So I am using this same size and cover, or sorry, the same size and planner type for 2026. But for now, I'm just going to slip this into my, so here's already this week. And I'm just going to slip this into this side pocket here for now, so that I only really have these two journals together for my weekly resets. But the rest of this that I have in here are a few other journals that I used in 2025 that I won't be taking with me into 2026. The first is a financial journal. I bought this little monthly booklet thinking that I would put financial to-dos here, and I never used it. To be honest, I use a spreadsheet that I love, and it's really part of my regular routine of financial resets. That's been revolutionary for me in the last few years in terms of increasing my savings and investments, really getting on top of kind of mindless spending and setting bigger financial goals for myself. So I didn't use this at all, and I don't plan to use a monthly booklet for financial notes or goals this year. I'll stick to what's been working, which is really my Google Sheet that I have. Then I had these two weekly booklets, and I was tracking meals, workouts, and my favorite meals here. And this I really used consistently throughout the year, but I didn't feel like I needed an entire booklet for this for 2026, which is why, as you recall, on the daily pages, I just added the meals here. That way I won't have to have a separate book to chronicle all of that. But what was really helpful is that it helped me identify all of my favorite meals so that I'm more motivated to think about a meal plan based on the meals that I love to cook and love to eat, rather than an easy choice of like going and getting takeout or something that's just not as healthy. And I had these stored in this beautiful Giulio Giramondo Deluxe. This is in the Toscana leather. It's getting dark, so sorry if the color is not coming through as well. But this was a lovely planner. I did switch these out for 1 month in the summer, and then quickly went back to this because I just really loved the Janet Leather Black for my daily planner. And then finally, I used this Epoca Cloud Medium Miakara external cover for my B6 Sterling Ink blank journal. And this is kind of just like an anything journal, kind of a get it out journal. I do dream journaling here, some brain dump journaling, more deeper reflective journaling on life and just events of the day-to-day and my own deeper thoughts. So this has been a beautiful cover and planner or journal that I've loved. Using this really is one that I started back in 2024. So it still has a lot more space in it. I'll probably, hopefully, fill it out, finish it in 2026. So this is a journal I'm definitely taking with me into 2026. These I'm not. I'm putting these away and archiving them and storing them. This is my daily planner for 2026 for personal purposes and goals, as well as like a personal finance notebook and a commonplace notebook. And then I also have my daily journal, gratitude journal, and reflection journal, my health journal, and my work planner. I'm really sticking with a lot of the same systems in 2026 that worked with me for me in 2025. And I will also be continuing to use this Media Mimica for just brain dump notes, lists, having paper on hand. And that's really the gist of it. That's my main system, and what's been working for me and what I'm going to be taking with me into the new year. So that is it. I invite you to submit any questions below, follow along to see how this system continues to evolve into 2026. I'm really excited about continuing the momentum that I built last year, with the system that I've designed and the stamps that I created and the processes that I've been using. But do let me know if you have any questions about the covers, the stamps, and just my overall system. I'm happy to answer them. Please follow along Cece's Brilliant Plan here on YouTube or on Instagram. And thank you so much for sticking around.